Coach, I know that first game, it kind of seemed like maybe you were letting your horses off the reins, so to speak, letting your guys off the leash because they've been pent up waiting for so long. After the emotion of that first game is passed, how do you return now to make sure everyone's locked in and more focused this second time around?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I considered when we entered the fourth quarter, I considered keeping our guys in just because they're only playing 6 games. They need every rep they can get, and thought better of it. I pulled everybody, at the end of the third quarter, and it was good reps for the young guys, especially in the COVID year. Everyone's got to be ready, and but getting into this week, I mean, when you're playing a team like Toledo that's had the history that they've had, and watching them on film, they look great on film. So, our guys are dialed in. Biggest thing is just improving. We really just focus on what we struggled with last week, and the coaches, we've been hard on them this week, making sure that we attack the little things that we didn't do well, and that we start a little bit faster and get to executing. Because against a team like this, you got to execute, or you'll get run out of the gym. So, yeah, it's a great second game to have to make sure there's no lull, because you're playing a really good team, and so our guys have really been locked in. We've been the schedule kind of set up in our favor that way.
Hey, Tim, can you talk about, having D. Eskridge back and what he brings to the table? And not only that, Ladarius being eligible to play this year, because, he's a big-time physical back who has speed.
He is. We've had a lot of, starting with Ladarius, we have, I think, 3 really, really good backs. And, now it's up to us offensively to figure out a way to make sure they're getting the touches that they need to make an impact in the game. And they're all a little bit different, which is good for us. It gives us a lot of variety in the types of plays we can run. But Ladarius, obviously, his size, his sheer size, he's a phenomenal athlete, great person, great character. Just came in here and worked so hard. And I'm so thankful that he got the opportunity to play. I was happy for him when I got the chance to tell him. And then he came out and ran hard, and just like we thought he would. And he had a big smile on his face, so I was excited to see him get a chance. And then D, D is world-class speed. He's been doing a great job since he came back training with Coach Harbaugh, our new wide receiver coach. They know each other from way back when D was a freshman. Coach Harbaugh was a GA here, so they know each other. And it's been fun watching them work together. It's been fun watching him try to become a complete wide receiver, not just a fast guy, route running, getting off releases, blocking. He had one of the best blocks of the game. On one of Ladarius's long runs, he had the guy, he ran him like 20 yards downfield and buried him. And it was the play of the game for me. I know everyone else is going to talk about his other touchdowns, but, really becoming a complete player is the biggest thing that he's been focusing on. That's been fun to see a guy who's athletically, if our best or one of our best players, that shows up and he's still got a chip on his shoulder and he wants to get better. And that's really rubbed off on all the receivers and the whole offense. And so it's been great to have him. And he does things, he stretches defenses, and defenses are going to have to figure out how they want to play him in certain situations. And we have to be smart and counteract whatever they're doing to give one of our other athletes a chance if they're trying to take him away.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
Appreciate it.
Coach, you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but they say that most of the improvement, or much of the improvement, is made between weeks 1 and weeks 2. Specifically, because to a layman, it looks like you did pretty much everything well. But what specifically, where are the areas do you really see the need to improve to play competitively with Toledo?
Yeah, I think I think we need to come out and settle down faster, and we need to tackle better early on. I think early on defensively, we got behind the 8 ball. We missed a couple tackles. They had a couple big runs. They had momentum. We slowed them down, and we held them to a couple field goals, and then we had kind of put our foot down at that point. And against a team like Toledo, you can't do that. You have to come out. You got to play 60 minutes of the same kind of ball. They're going to make plays even when you're playing great. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing. I thought Caleb early on was a little shaky. Maybe people didn't notice it. I noticed it just because his throws were late. He was off balance. He was hesitating on decisions. And then he got settled in and things started coming out on time and really the offense started clicking. So I think those are the things that, we need to make sure that we're not, we're waiting until the second quarter or third quarter to start really putting our best foot forward against a good team. So I think those are the two areas, and we were fairly assignment sound, which I was proud of. We can have better pad level, and we're going to need to have better pad level. This defense flies around, and and they're definitely a great unit. So it'll be a big challenge. But those are, I'd say, the biggest areas: tackling early on better, making sure we keep the quarterback in the pocket, and making sure that we just get Caleb settled in early, and then we keep attacking.
Coach, with such a short and weird season, 6 weeks, does this have a MAC West championship feel to it Wednesday night?
Well, I think MAC West, that's the one thing. If people ask that question, it's an interesting question, but I think there's so many good teams in the West. Every week's like that. It's been like that for, I feel like 20 years. Anyone and any given day, there's so many well-coached teams in our league, but it's specifically the West. That I think you have to show up every single week, and this is obviously a big one because we know they have talent. We had a great game with them last year. We started slow. They jumped up on us. Our defense really hunkered down in the second half. Offensively, we came back and ended up being first and goal from the 10, with like 45 seconds left, and we didn't put it in, and we lost by 7. So it was a great game, and it's all the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of if we could have started faster. We would have had more time to come back in that game. So we remember that game and the things we didn't get accomplished. So yeah, it definitely, I think every game has that same feel with a short season. Every game matters, and that's one of the great things about college football. It's one of the unique things about this season of all seasons is every single game. And there's a lot of competent teams in our league that we got to show up and be ready to play. And so I think our guys are excited about the challenge. I think they enjoy playing together. I think they enjoy competing together. And now we're going to have a chance to do it against a really good team.
Coach, this is your fourth go against Toledo as a coach. Jason Candle's been there that whole time. You'll also get a fourth chance against Chris Creighton and Mike New. Talk about the coaching matchups, if you will, because I know there's a little bit of that going on, the chess moves behind it all. And the fact that you've had 3 opportunities to match wits with him in the past, what does he bring to the table, and what kind of moves are you anticipating, and how do you get ahead of that?
Well, Coach Candle is a great coach. He's done a great job recruiting. That's how they have the players that they have running around the field. They've done it consistently year after year, and that shows. And I think the one thing that's most impressive about them is their offense has always been explosive. You've had different quarterbacks, you've had different wideouts, you've had different running backs. I mean, guys have cycled through, but their effectiveness offensively, I think he's a great offensive mind and how he attacks defenses, and he's made it really hard for us in the first year. I felt last year was the first time we slowed him up a little bit, and those kids play hard, and that's the sign of a well-coached team, and they're hungrier now looking at them at their last game than we've seen. So it's a huge compliment to him and his staff, and it's exciting when you have a chance. These are the kind of games you want to play in.
Coach, Toledo last week held Bowling Green to 8 of 30 passing. What did you see on film of that defense, and how do you make sure our passing attack is able to have success against them?
Yeah, the biggest thing with that game, I mean, they lived in the backfield. As an ex-quarterback, I felt horrible for Bowling Green's quarterback. I mean, he took a beating, and once you start getting hit, it's hard to hang in there. Their D-line did a great job of getting in the backfield. Their cover guys did a great job covering, but I don't know how many balls even got to the receiver. They were always covered too. I mean, those guys do a great job, but that D-line really took it to Bowling Green's offensive line, and that quarterback had a rough go at it. So we got to protect. You know, we got to protect. We got to get the run game going. They had a little bit of success in the run game, not a lot, but they really, like I said, they really struggled protecting. You know, and so we have to run the ball, which is always our number one goal, and we have to protect the quarterback. You know, and you know, if they play a lot of man, which they tend to do, you know, we got to make plays on the edges. And but that's really the key, is their D line did a great job against Bowling Green, and it made throwing the ball almost impossible, you know, for that young man. So so that's what we got to focus on, and get Caleb comfortable, and he's going to get hit. You know, at times he got hit a couple times last week, and he's a tough, resilient kid, you know, and I know he's looking forward to the challenge.
Coach, how do you expect Caleb to, you know, react in the game? You know, like you said last week, it took him a minute to settle in, and obviously he had to make 16 throws, and once he settled in, you know, he did a good job. But how do you expect him to react in a game where he may have more on his plate, you know, against the Toledo defense that's, you know, pretty good? And just how do you expect him to react to maybe a more high-pressure situation this week?
You know, that's the one thing about Caleb. He has a great demeanor to him. I mean, he never changes, you know, and he's been that way since the moment he got here. Never too high, never too low, which is going to really help him in a situation like this. I mean, his first game that he got thrown into action was Toledo. So when he was 18 years old, and he played a great game 2 years ago when John went down, he had to go in. I think he threw 2 touchdowns for 230 some yards. I mean, he did a great job being 18 years old. I'm sure that would had to be, I bet the bullets were flying fast for him that day. So I think that helps him a little bit, but I think, you know, I just want him to go out there and worry about being efficient. You know, he does a great job of communicating with the line of scrimmage, letting people know what the plan is, understanding the game plan that we're trying to go in there with. And so I expect him to be just like he always is, calm and cool and collected. And you know, he took a couple shots last week, and I was happy that he did, because he got to get back up. You're never happy when your quarterback takes a shot, but I was happy he popped right back up, and I think he settled in, and he's ready to go.
Then what do you see in Toledo's offense, just the things they do well? Obviously, you know, Eli Peters, experienced quarterback and really good running game. So what are some of the things that you see from them?
Yeah, Kovac and Seymour are great running backs. I mean, it's been fun to watch them. You know, they're downhill, they're physical. I think, you know, Peters is a great quarterback. He's in a great system, knows where to go with the ball. Their receiver, Mitchell, is fast, big, long, can run. I mean, we don't have a lot of guys of his size in our league. Harris, their center is, great. I mean, he got hurt last year. Harris, I think it's 72. He's one of my favorite players in our league. Watching him play and fight and he sets the tone for the whole offense. And those guys, you have to know, you know, you always got to be aware of the running game. You got to know where 80 is. They got plenty of other athletes around them, so they really put a lot of pressure on you to make sure you're handling all their explosive players that they have. And we try to be the same way, you know, have enough explosive players that when we're tilting one way, you can go to something else. And so it's a huge challenge for our defense. And I'm sure they're excited to go against, you know, this offense.
Coach, first of all, I got to piggyback on what you said about D. Eskridge's block downfield. I remember watching that on television in real time and going, wow, did you see that downfield block? And it reminded me a lot of those 2016 receivers that was one thing you just really picked up on, is the downfield blocking, and it was just amazing. And I thought that's fantastic. So I'm glad you highlighted that. But my question is about playing the first home game. I trust the band and the cheerleaders will be there, but no fans except for family and friends. Is that right?
I am not. I don't think the cheerleaders are going to be there, and I don't think the band is not going to be there either.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
No, but it's just going to be family and friends.
By the number of ESPN people there doing a telecast, there'll be the majority of the people in the stands then.
Yeah, we have a really cool setup here where we're going to be able to have all the fans on one side, all the family members, and then keep our side clean. You know, the people that are in our building will all have been tested 4 times a week for the last 5 weeks. So we're trying to create a bubble around this side of the field, both our locker room and the visiting locker rooms over here. And there's an entrance and all the seats on the other side. So it really sets up really well to make sure that the fans, you know, they're going to get a good place to watch the game. But we still get a little bit of physical separation, you know, because they're not even on our side of the stadium. So it's definitely going to be different. It was different last week at Akron, you know, but I think that's really where you see how much your team likes playing with it, you know, together. You know, we compete in practice, and they're hooting and hollering, and it's competitive as heck. And you see guys helping each other up after plays and stuff. So it was fun. It was fun to watch the defense and the offense, you know, celebrate each other, and you really have to kind of bring your own energy. And obviously this game will have a lot of energy, but you kind of have to bring your own juice, so to speak, to every game, even home games this year. So having a home game isn't what it used to be. This year, you've seen that all across college football, and we know that, and we have to show up and make sure we're ready to play, even though we won't get to have that Waldo crowd that we love having.
Coach, you got a lot of weapons out there on the field between your 3 running backs that rotate in and all the wide receivers. How do you go about spreading the love to all these good players who want touches? I believe in the second half, we mentioned on our broadcast that Sky Moore hadn't touched the ball yet, and the next 3 plays he got, I think, 3 passes in a row. So how do you go about doing that? And do you go with a hot hand, or you just continue to spread it around and whoever's open gets the ball?
Well, I think it's different at each position, Robin. I think that running back wise, you got to make sure everyone gets their touches. And as the game goes on, if you have a hot hand, you can ride the hot hand. So that's different than receivers. In the receiving game, it's about matchups and coverages, you know, and we're really you know, the coverages that they were playing, we couldn't get Sky the ball. And at halftime, I always look at the pitch count. I got to make sure it's hard. It's a great problem to have, that we need to make sure guys are getting touches. And, you know, they were playing a defense that it was hard to get Sky the ball. And we ran the ball well enough that finally, and then when D hit his long one, they had to change their coverage, and that allowed us finally to get Sky involved. And the moment they did, you know, we hit him on a couple balls, and which was huge. And actually, I mean, Caleb missed one time. The first time he had a chance to throw the ball to Sky, he didn't, and I gave it to him pretty good, saying that we finally get to look to get him the ball, and we didn't. But we came right back and hit it a couple times and got him down the field on one. And so, you know, with those ones, it's going to be coverage dictated, you know, and if they want to try to take D away, then we still got to find ways to get D the ball, but we got to make sure that Sky has a big game, or Jalen has a big game, or Bustle has a big game, and or we run the ball effectively. So they all go hand in hand. I think like the receivers is a little bit more difficult, but running them, and then we figure out as we go who has the hot hand.
And then over on defense, you were able to get some pressure from your front 4. You blitzed a little bit, but most of it was from your down linemen and defensive ends getting some pressure on the quarterback. A lot of that probably was having to do with a young Akron offensive line. But then you brought in Marsha Nielan. Talk about his game. Here's a redshirt freshman who I think had 2 sacks in the game and was in the backfield a lot.
Yeah, he's a great athlete, and he's got a chance to learn from Ali. And he's just a worker. I mean, he was hard to block last year redshirting. You know, he got to go against Jalen Moore every single day. And Jalen, I mean, there were times that he'd get Jalen, which is hard to do. And we knew last year when he was redshirting that he was going to have a chance to be a good player. And it was great in his first game to have the success he had. I think he had 3 TFLs, 2 sacks or something like that. And then he had Andre Carter and Ali in there, and Fisk and Aguirre, and of course Holly was in the backfield a lot. So we got a good rotation in there at the D line, and coach tries to rotate him and keep him fresh. And you know, we were a little bit out of control early on. There was too much space in the pocket for the quarterback to move around and make plays and get to secondary receivers and check downs. And once we kind of took the edges off of them and worried, and we kept the cup, as we call it, of the pocket, then he had nowhere to go. And all of a sudden it became sack. And we started compiling our sacks once we're a little bit more disciplined in our angles and our rush lanes. So so that was one of the reasons early on we struggled. You know, the D line, I thought, did a great job against the young Akron offensive line all day. But I think as they got more disciplined in their pass rush lanes, then they started getting the sacks instead of just one hand on him, as he was able to sneak out and check down to the back. So I think they learned a lot. I think they go every day. I mean, it's really good for our offensive line to have to go against that group every single day. And it's made them a lot better. And it was fun to watch them actually get to go mess with another offensive line other than ours, you know, and get in the backfield a lot. And we're going to need them to do that this week.
Coach, could you give us an update on Taryn Coleman's situation and some of the guys who have been filling in for him there at cornerback? Yeah,
Taryn's out. Taryn's out for the year. He unfortunately hurt his knee during training camp on an unbelievable interception. So Keith Jones Jr. has been playing the field corner. He played great. It was funny kind of going into the middle of training camp. Taryn was doing a great job. Obviously, Lupro was doing a great job. And then Keith Jones. So we had a lot of talks around the table that some were arguing that Keith was our best corner and we had to find a way to get him on the field. You know, we didn't want to get him on the field via injury, but that's unfortunately the way it happened. So he did a great job of field corner, graded out really high. He's just so efficient in his movements and he understands what we're doing and he works hard. I mean, him, Sean Tyler, and Sky Moore are roommates and they all approach football the same way, you know, and so excited for Keith, you know, excited to get Taryn back in the future and it's unfortunate for him, but he's kept a positive attitude and we'll look forward to getting him back next year.
And Coach, then, Lupro made 2 outstanding pass breakups. I mean, how has he grown into that cornerback role after changing over from safety earlier in his career?
Yeah, you know, that was one of the things, you know, everything's tied together. And so last year we moved D. D was playing corner. You know, we didn't know if Lupro was ready yet, and D did a great job. And then D got hurt and kind of forced Lupro into action, and then he became an all-conference player, you know, which made, you know, bringing D back to offense even easier. And so to have him, he gained so much confidence as the year went on last year, and he's tough and he tackles and just does so many great things, you know. So having a veteran in there, a returning all-conference guy who's still only, I think, a sophomore, he's got tons of time left, but he's played a ton and had a lot of success. And so, you know, it's been fun to have him into the boundary because you got to be able to count on that guy.
Coach, the first score of the season was a field goal by Diego Caps, and I'm sure you had to kind of breathe a sigh of relief because he nailed that. And we have had some issues with place kicking game, particularly last season. But talk about, I mean, that segment really looked solid last week. And the kicking game and special teams is likely to play a big factor in the game.
Yeah, you know, I was proud of that unit. That unit's been great. I mean, they got here and they've been here a couple of years now, and it really starts with Bryce. I mean, Bryce Bowens is, I mean, his times on his snaps are unbelievable. He's gotten so much more whip since he's been here that our operation times are faster. It's given our kickers a little bit more time to look at the ball. You know, Nick Mahalik punting the ball better than he ever has, and he's comfortable. He's kicking off. We had a lot of touchbacks, which was huge. And then Tiago, it was a battle between Tiago and Gavin Petty really all through training camp. We really didn't even decide who was going to kick till like the day before the game because they both have been kicking pretty well. And Tiago had a little bit better numbers, and he's really calm and smooth now. He did rush one, one of the extra points, but he was so nervous coming here from Brazil last year in front of people. He was a mess, nerves wise. And so he's calmed down now, nice and cool and smooth. He's got plenty of leg to kick any kick we want him to kick. He just needs to stay calm because his aim's really good when he's calm. So put him in a tough situation for first drive. And, we took a sack, and that was unfortunate. And Caleb did a great job on the next play of just checking down instead of trying to force something, get us into field goal range. And he's got plenty of legs. So I was so happy for him. And then when he missed the extra point later on, he rushed, and I wanted to see him get back to it. And then from that point on, he was all over it. So it was good to see him come back from some adversity, and so that gives us a lot of confidence. And I have confidence in our other kickers too, but I'm happy that he hit that. I'm sure it built his confidence, and that whole operation from Mahalik holding to Bryce snapping and Tiago kicking is the time. Their times are so fast now that I don't feel like they're rushing anymore, which is really helps our accuracy.
Coach, not trying to pour salt in a wound or anything, but Toledo is the only team that you haven't beaten in the MAC yet. Is that something that that you're aware of, that you think about, and does it kind of just impact the way that you kind of get up and prepare for a game like this against a talented Rockets team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it changes the way you react to it. You have a ton of respect for them, and they've obviously, was it 2016 they won it? They've been to the place we want to get to, and I have a ton of respect for them, and we want to. Obviously, I know we've never beat them. Last year was our closest contest, and but yeah, we don't prepare any differently. You show up, you put a plan together. This year's a unique year. They got a new defense. So it's not like last year. So it's been really unique offensively breaking this team down, because it's in many ways, this is kind of like a first game for us, because we didn't get a ton of good stuff off the Bowling Green. Bowling Green doesn't run an offense anything like ours. They don't run any formations that we run. So it's been an interesting week offensively, and we've really been so focused in on that. I know Coach Esposito in our defense is going against Coach Candle, and I know he helps run the offense, and they know each other fairly well. So for us, it's really been focusing on what this new defense does. They looked really good last week, and how we can attack it, and that's really what we're focusing on.
All right, any more questions, Coach?
I was just going to ask one more, Coach, about kind of some off the field stuff and what you guys have to endure, with COVID testing and 4 times a week, and you'd be hard pressed to find many people in America that have to do that. And I don't know, I just wondered from a mental health aspect, from your coaching staff all the way trickle down to your players, like how do you guys manage that to really make sure they're well taken care of and that they're dealing with all these challenges that are thrown their way?
Yeah, Seth, it's hard. I think it comes down to one thing, like most things in the world and in our country, it's about communicating, and I mean, last week's trip was interesting. I mean, from the N95 masks that we had to wear on the bus to the air purifying machines that we had everywhere with us, to where we're eating 2 at a table, all spread out in waves. No, you can't leave your room. It's you and your roommate. There is no gatherings of any sort. So it's been really interesting. I was really proud of the guys, the way they handled it. You just talk them through. I always try to tell them like 3 or 4 days before, like, hey, this is how it's going to be. It's going to be different. Our job is to not let any of the little stuff affect us. And then when it comes to the testing, I mean, 4 days a week, and the way Syndicus here on campus has it set up, we are unbelievably fortunate, because they're rock stars over there. I mean, it's a drive-through setup where we were there this morning, 7 a.m. The entire team was in line and to get swabbed. We're all negative this morning. So we got one more tomorrow morning, and they make it really efficient, that it's not a huge. I have talked to a lot of coaches at other teams that it's a whole production. It's just one other distracting thing that's when everywhere you go, there's new things going on. But for us, testing has been, obviously it's been a burden, but it hasn't been because of Syndicus, because of our athletic department and our school. They've done an unbelievable job that our guys literally on the way here just roll through. It takes 30 seconds and we get the results in less than an hour. So before we take the field, every single guy that's on that field knows that every single person on that field has been tested that day and they're negative. That's a very empowering thing when you're out there with these guys practicing and playing a contact sport. So we're very fortunate to not have that hurdle to overcome, but we, obviously remember we're in Michigan. So we're wearing masks during practice, and there's a lot of little things that we all have to do together. And, the great thing about it is we're doing it together, and it's not like coaches get to do something that players don't. I mean, we're all going to go through this together. We're all doing it for one, because these guys care about each other. They care about the sport. They love the sport. And we're all going to tell stories about it someday. We laugh, we joke about it all the time. You guys all tell the same stories. Remember when? But I'm really proud of the way they've handled it. As I always tell them, we got to get through all this stuff, but when we cross that line, we need to be ready to play. When we take the field. But everything before and after that's different. But when we cross that line, like, you can't even eat on the bus anymore. You have to eat, like, after the game, everyone had to eat. Like, eat all your food and drink right now, because once you get on, this mask is on, you're not taking it off. So everything has changed. But I've been proud of the way our guys have handled themselves.
All right, I think we're good. Appreciate it, Coach, and we'll see you Wednesday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.